I was hauling freight through the dead heart of Indiana when I found the body. Not on the road. No, it was inside my trailer, wrapped in blue tarp between boxes that were never supposed to be opened. I've driven for 15 years, seen everything this country can throw at you. Storms, wrecks, liars, but nothing like this. The bill of lading said electronics. The blood on the floorboards said otherwise. Now every mile I drive feels like a countdown. Every truck stop mirror shows someone else's face staring back. Who loaded that cargo? Who's tracking me through the CB static? And why does my dispatcher suddenly stop answering when I call from the dark side of midnight? You think you know the road? Trust me, you don't. Not until you hear what was waiting for me just past the state line. Stick around, hit that like button, subscribe, and listen to the end, because this isn't just another trucker's tale. This is the one story I might not live long enough to finish. The interstate ran straight as a tightrope over a flat winter plain. A gray ribbon pulled so taut it hummed. Ivy Hart kept both hands steady on the wheel, the way you do when your life's been measured in miles instead of years. The cab's heater sighed. The dash lights washed everything in a faint, dependable glow. Eastbound on Interstate 70, somewhere between Terre Haute and Columbus, the night had that empty Midwestern feel. Just grain silos, sodium lamps, and the occasional long-haul ghost drifting past in the hammer lane. She'd been at this for more than 15 years, ever since the divorce and the layoff and that long summer when the money ran thin and every mailbox looked like a jury summons. 15 years of weigh stations and scale tickets, of DOT inspections and roadside coffee that tasted like charcoaled rain. 15 years of waking up in sleeper berths with the map of America folded behind her eyes. 38 years old, bones tuned to asphalt, she could tell the grade by the pitch of the engine and the wind direction, by how the rig leaned at 65. Her truck, old but honest, purred like something alive. Out beyond the windshield, night snow began in a quiet, fussy way, a dusting that tried to convince you it was nothing. The CB muttered with half-asleep voices. A warning about a state trooper running radar near mile marker 119. A shout-out to a driver named Moonpie. A weather update nobody trusted. Ivy clicked the volume down. Silence felt more useful. In the side pocket of the door sat a thermos that smelled like iron and strong tea, a spiral notebook of fuel stops, and a photo she kept face down. A lake, a dock, a pair of bare feet that used to be hers. She promised herself she'd throw the photo away. She promised herself a lot of things. She'd picked up a legit load near St. Louis, pallets of bulk dry goods bound for Cleveland distribution, and she meant to drop by Monday dawn, get paid, swing west for something light, and run the week clean. No dispatch drama, no strange hands on her logbook, no calls from numbers she didn't recognize. At a little past 3 in the morning, 3 o'clock exactly by the dash clock's unblinking eyes, she eased off at an exit with a Love's and a TA across the way, a geometry of big rigs under buzzing poles. She parked nose out, slid the brake, and let the engine idle, while her nerves argued with her muscles. Outside, the night tasted like cold tin. The store glass threw back her reflection, close-cropped hair peeking from a knit cap, a flannel that had seen more dawns than birthdays, a face the sun had drawn in modest strokes, no makeup, no earrings. The road was its own jewelry. Inside the store, coffee steamed from overworked pots. A television above the lottery machine showed a traffic cam from a city that might as well have been Mars. A bored cashier hummed through a gum bubble. Ivy poured a cup, black as a moonless pond, and stood near the window where she could see her truck, see the highway's silent animal grace. That was when she heard the laugh. Low and rasped by years and cigarettes, the laugh snagged on something old in her. She didn't turn at first. She let the sound run across her spine like a cold fingertip. When she did look, he was there, leaner, grayer at the temples, a winter in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Hey, Hart," he said, like he'd left the cab a minute ago, not 8 years back. Look at you. Shane, she said. The name tasted like copper. Shane Walker had been her partner once. Co-driver, problem solver, the fast joke in a long night. The two of them had learned highways together, how to sneak miles out of a headwind, how to sweet-talk a cranky yard dog, how to live on peanut butter and shoulder shrugs. They had also learned how quickly stupid money could turn heavy, and how judges pronounced the word felony like an iron door. He gestured toward a two-top by the window. Got a minute? Everything in Ivy said no. The words stacked neatly in her throat. She took her coffee and sat anyway. For a breath or two, the store's hum did the talking. He looked different. The prison laundry had scrubbed the shine out of him, but the bones were the same. That sideways grin, the knuckles nicked by a dozen little lives, the scar near the jawline from a chain that broke in El Paso when a load shifted in August heat. Didn't think I'd run into you, he said. World's big. Highways are bigger. Highways are small, she said. They just pretend not to be. He nodded like she'd confirmed a private weather report. How's the run? Clean. Cleveland by Monday. Good. He scratched the paper cup seam with a thumbnail. I could use a driver like you. There it was. The tightrope thrummed. No, she said before the details even showed up. Whatever it is. He lifted both hands, palms out, peaceable. Hear me, one trip, one straight shot, paperwork in order. You don't even have to touch the dock. I wouldn't ask if... You would, she said. Ask me, I mean. That's your trick. He didn't argue. That was new. The old Shane would have danced, charmed, thrown in a smile and a lie. This one let the silence sit with them like a third person who'd seen too much. I'm not the same idiot, he said at last. Or I am, but I'm trying not to be. I got out and the world is... He searched the store for a word and came up with a shrug. Turns out doors don't open just because time passed. Time doesn't open doors, Ivy said. Keys do. He laughed at that, the same caught-in-the-chest laugh that had once warmed nights like a cheap blanket. Okay, philosopher, here's the key. A warehouse in Joliet, a cross-dock handoff near Youngstown, cash on pickup and the rest on delivery. The load's labeled consumer electronics, the kind you can buy in any big box. It's a favor for a man who did me a decent turn when I didn't deserve one. He paused. You won't get burned. She watched snow pucker against the glass and thought about the words, you won't. You won't get burned. You won't get caught. You won't regret it. All the promises the road had taught her to translate. How much? She asked, because the world was still the world. Enough to breathe for a while, he said. Enough to pay off that brake job you stretched across 2 shops last fall. She lifted an eyebrow. Been reading my mail, too? Listening, he said. Drivers talk. The country is one long CB channel. He looked smaller for a second. Not shorter, just less. Like something had been folded out of him. Ivy, I wouldn't ask if I had another name in my phone. I burned them. That's on me. You were the person I didn't want to burn. Outside, her truck sat steady, a practical cathedral under cheap light. She could almost hear the engine ticking down where the manifold cooled. This life's metronome. Cleveland by Monday, West by Wednesday. Keep the wheels turning until something like hope arrived on the next bill of lading. Terms, she said. Yours, he answered too fast. I drive. No detours I don't approve. No midnight changes. I see even a sliver of wrong. I'm gone. No one climbs into my cab who isn't me, and you don't breathe on the routing unless I ask. He put a hand to his chest like she'd lobbed a prayer there. Deal. And if the paper smells funny, if the same box label is misspelled twice, if the weights don't make sense, if a warehouse guard pretends not to have a last name, we're done. Deal, he said again, quieter this time. The cashier's scanner beeped in an absent rhythm. A driver bought jerky and a scratch-off and nodded to them the way you nod to war buddies you've never met. When? Ivy asked. Pick up tomorrow afternoon, Shane said. Joliet near the Des Plaines. They'll have the dock ready. We run night to duck Chicago's worst. You know the drill." "I know the drill," she said, and the words tasted like defeat and maybe like rescue. Hard to tell at that hour. On the way back to her truck, she felt the snow change. Thicker now, more certain of itself. The kind of snow that talked like it had friends. Shane fell into step without asking. The lot lights turned their breath to ghosts. "You carrying?" he asked, a habit question born of too many miles and too many rumors. "Not tonight," she said. "The Second Amendment doesn't refill coffee or pay tickets. Besides, state lines make felons out of glove boxes." He smiled, then didn't. "I'll ride behind you in a borrowed pickup. No tales, no drama. We'll keep it dull." "Dull?" she said, and the road inside her raised a skeptical eyebrow. She climbed the steps, dropped into the driver's seat, and felt the familiar embrace of old fabric and stubborn springs. He stood on the step rail a second longer than she liked. "Ivy," he said. "Thank you." "Don't," she said, "not yet." He tapped the door twice, an old signal, then stepped back into the snow, shrinking into the parking lot's parade of strangers. She watched him go in the mirrors until the mirrors were only night. Back on the interstate, the white lines pulsed like a heartbeat you could trust. The world narrowed to glass and light and the low hum of the engine. If she tried, she could pretend this was just another load, just another Sunday bleeding into Monday, just another small bargain with loneliness. But the road learns you. It keeps a ledger. It knows when you nudge the boundary fences and when you pretend not to see the sign that says, "Bridge ices before road." It knows which mile rolled past while you whispered yes against your better sense. At 4 a.m, 4 exactly, she set the cruise a hair under legal and let the rig hum. Somewhere near Zanesville, a freight train threaded the dark like a stitched wound. Somewhere a trooper dozed in a median cut. All that authority slumped like a forgotten coat. Somewhere, a man named Shane Walker counted favors and rehearsed apologies he hoped not to need. When dawn finally showed up, a thin pink smear along a flat horizon, Ivy felt the familiar lift and the familiar drop. Every day on the road began with both. She told herself she'd run it clean, keep it dull, bail if the air turned sour. She told herself there was still time to decline. By daylight, those two little words, the ones she didn't say to him and the ones she did, would feel like a choice. In the taut, buzzing dark before sunrise, they felt like the road making another entry in its book. And the road, more than anyone, never forgets. The sky above Joliet had the washed-out color of a motel sheet that's been laundered too many times. Noon light made everything look temporary. The warehouses, the semis, even the people moving among them like extras who'd already forgotten their lines. Ivy backed her truck into dock bay number 6, the air brakes sighing in protest. The yard smelled of diesel and thawing snow. The load was supposed to be waiting. Paperwork said Consumer Electronics, Midwest Supply. Neat, ordinary, legitimate. She double-checked the bills. Total weight 22,000 pounds even, sealed pallets, prepaid. It all looked too clean, like a resume rewritten by a guilty man. A forklift buzzed across the bay, driven by a kid who couldn't have been more than 19. He was wearing a hoodie under a safety vest, earbuds dangling, one eye on his phone. The world's future, Ivy thought, humming along to a beat she couldn't hear. "You the Cleveland Run?" he asked. "That's me," Ivy said. "Bay 6. "Yep, you'll be gone in 15. He sniffed. "You know the guy who set this up?" "Maybe," she said. "You his fan club?" The kid laughed. "Not hardly. He tipped $20 on the load ticket, though. People don't usually do that." "Guess he wanted you out quick." That sounded like Shane. Guilt wrapped in generosity. She signed the bills, watched as pallet after pallet slid into the trailer. Boxed monitors, routers, cables, all sealed in corporate blue plastic. The forklift's reverse beep echoed like a heartbeat. At 10 minutes past 1, the bay manager waved her off. She eased the rig forward, shut the doors, and sealed them herself with a fresh numbered tag. The sun peeked through a gap in the clouds, lighting the river's dull edge. Somewhere behind her, Shane's borrowed pickup idled, a beat-up Ford with Ohio plates and one working taillight. She pulled out onto Route 53, heading east toward the toll road. The highway shimmered with heat ghosts, even though it was winter cold. Her phone buzzed once. A text from Shane. "Keep steady pace. I'll catch you after Gary." She didn't reply. The less chatter, the better. An hour later, near South Bend, the world turned gray again. Snow flurries spun in lazy circles, the kind that never committed to being real weather. Ivy stopped at a rest area for coffee and to check the seal. Still intact. No scratches, no smudge on the latch. The cargo sat silent behind her. Inside the vending area, she poured coffee and saw her reflection in the glass. Tired eyes, calm hands. You get used to that combination. A janitor mopped in slow, careful strokes. The place smelled of disinfectant and fried food from the vending machine. "You're early for Cleveland," someone said behind her. She didn't turn. The voice wasn't Shane's. It was lower, slower, professional. "Excuse me?" she asked. The man wore a brown parka, clean jeans, and the kind of neutral face that never made it to memory. He smiled politely. "Sorry, I work security for one of the distributors in Youngstown. We've had a couple of loads go missing. You headed that way?" "Maybe," she said. "You following me?" "Following?" He laughed too easily. "No, ma'am, just passing through. Saw your company name on the bills of lading back at the terminal yesterday. Thought I'd say hi if we crossed paths." That was nonsense. She didn't even run under a company name anymore. Her rig was leased through a third-party broker, plain white cab, independent plates. Whoever this man was, he knew more than he should. "Nice meeting you," Ivy said, tossing the coffee and walking out. Back in the cab, her pulse had gone tight. She checked the mirrors. The parka man hadn't followed. Still, she could feel a tremor under the day's rhythm, a change in pitch she didn't like. When Shane finally called near Toledo, his voice sounded hoarse. "You good?" "Define good," she said. "Seal intact?" "Yes." "Perfect. We make the handoff tonight, just outside Youngstown. Industrial Park off Route 422. No big thing." "Shane," she said. "Some guy in a parka asked about the load. Knew where I was headed." Silence. Then, "What did you tell him?" "Nothing, but he's not Dot." "Not warehouse security either." He swore softly. "They're moving faster than I thought." "Who's they?" "I'll explain later. Just drive, Ivy, please." She almost hung up. Then she heard something in his voice. Panic wearing the coat of guilt. She'd heard that tone once before, the night everything went sideways in Albuquerque. "Explain now," she said. A sigh crackled through the line. "There's tech inside those boxes. Not stolen exactly, just not cleared. Government contract stuff that didn't clear export channels. My contact said it was fine. It was supposed to be a routine job." "Supposed to be," she repeated. "Jesus, Shane. They're not after you. They're after the hardware. You get it to the drop, you're done. They'll never trace it." "You believe that?" "I have to." She killed the call, shoved the phone into the dash cubby, and focused on the road. Snow thickened. The wipers whispered in slow rhythm. Her rig felt heavier than 22,000 pounds. By dusk, the sky had gone purple over the frozen fields. She saw Shane's pickup headlights in the mirror, a patient distance behind. He wasn't tailgating, he was watching, always watching. The industrial park appeared as a cluster of low buildings lit by motion sensors. She eased onto the access road, engine grumbling. Shane's pickup followed. "Feels like a bad movie," she muttered. He climbed out first, pulled his hood up, and motioned toward a warehouse door half open, pale light spilling out. Two men waited inside, silhouettes against stacked crates. They didn't wave. "This it?" she asked. "This is it," he said, voice unsteady. "We unload, they sign, you're free." "Free," she echoed. "Sure." The men came forward. One was thick-necked, with the walk of someone who'd carried guns before. The other had a clipboard and a polite smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ivy handed over the bills. He scanned them, then nodded. "Pop the seal," he said. "Not my job," she answered. "You sign first." He studied her for a long second. "You truckers, and your rules." "Rules keep blood off the asphalt," she said. He signed. She broke the seal. When the trailer door rolled up, the first pallet gleamed with neat, corporate precision. Boxes marked Consumer Electronics. The second pallet, however, had different labels: foreign script, military cereals, and a faint smell of ozone like burned wiring. Ivy felt the temperature inside the trailer drop. Even Shane's breathing changed. "What is this?" she asked quietly. The man with the clipboard smiled. "Nothing that concerns you, driver. You can leave now." "I don't move until I'm empty and paid," she said. The man nodded toward his partner. "Pay her." The thick-necked one pulled a folded envelope from his jacket. Cash. He stepped closer than necessary. That was when headlights swept across the lot. 2, then 4, then 6 sets of them. A chorus of tires crunched on gravel. Engines revved. Ivy saw unmarked SUVs fanning out like wolves. "Shane," she hissed. "Run," he said. But the yard had no exits except the one already filling with headlights. She dropped into the cab and twisted the key. The engine roared. The men in the warehouse shouted. Shane sprinted toward her, waving something, maybe a badge, maybe a lie. She slammed the gear into drive. The rig lurched forward, trailer rattling like a beast too big for its cage. Bullets, or maybe just rocks, clattered against the metal. She didn't wait to find out which. By the time she hit Route 422, the mirrors behind her were full of flashing lights and chaos. The snowstorm swallowed the sound, but not her heartbeat. For the next 50 miles, she didn't think about right or wrong. Only distance. The road always keeps score. Tonight, it was writing in ink. Snow came down heavy by the time Ivy hit the Pennsylvania line. Thick, steady flakes turned the highway into a tunnel of white and reflection. The interstate signs blurred. The rumble strips whispered under her tires. Behind her, the world burned itself out in sirens and headlights. Ahead, only the hiss of snow and the low hum of the engine. She kept both hands on the wheel, jaw tight, eyes darting between mirrors. No lights behind her now, but that didn't mean she was clear. The trailer felt like it weighed twice what it should. Maybe it was her nerves. Maybe it was whatever she was hauling. The electronics that smelled of ozone and secrets. She flipped on the CB. Static, then a burst of chatter from another trucker. "Westbound. You got some heat back there, just so you know. Looks like feds, not stadies. Running hard from Youngstown." Her stomach sank. "Copy that," she said. "You the white Cascadia with the clean trailer?" "Maybe." "Then maybe don't stop till Pittsburgh. The sky's raining badges tonight." She clicked the CB off. The highway curved past a river choked with ice. Streetlights glowed faintly through the snow, like ghosts trying to remember their names. Ivy's wipers fought to keep the windshield alive. Every nerve in her body told her to pull over, to find a truck stop and vanish until daylight. But the road had its own gravity. A pull that didn't care about fear. At a fuel plaza outside Mercer, she finally eased off the interstate. The place was nearly empty. 2 rigs idling under yellow light, a salt truck parked crooked, snow piling on its hood. She parked nose out again, habit more than plan, and killed the lights. The hum of the engine faded into the night. Her phone buzzed. Shane. She let it ring twice before answering. "Where are you?" he asked, voice shredded by wind. "Past the line, heading east." "They're calling it in as a theft," he said. "They'll say you stole it. I'm already hearing it on the channels." "Perfect," she said. "What did you drag me into, Shane?" "It wasn't supposed to go this way, I swear to God." "Don't swear to anyone, just tell me what's in that trailer." A long pause. Then, prototype servers, quantum something, military-grade encryption cores, not weapons, not drugs, just tech. Black contract stuff. My contact said it was surplus, legal to move. Turns out it wasn't. The guys at the dock? They're not warehouse crew. They're private security for a defense subcontractor. Someone set us both up. You think? Ivy snapped. Half of Pennsylvania's probably got your plate number. I can fix it. There's a place near Cranberry, friend of mine. He can stash the rig, swap the plates, maybe make it disappear for a while. Disappear? You get off the radar, we find out who's playing us, we clear your name. My name doesn't come back once it's on the radio, she said quietly. You should know that. The silence stretched. Outside, the snow muffled everything, even regret. Ivy, he said finally, you have every right to hate me, but if you bail now, you're not safe. They'll track you by the VIN, by the bills of lading, by the tag number. Let me help. Help, she repeated. You have a strange definition of that. But she was still listening, still alive, still too stubborn to quit. She thought about turning herself in, drive to the nearest sheriff's office, explain, point fingers. But who would believe a trucker with a felony record and a partner fresh out of prison? The world didn't love their kind. It tolerated them until it didn't. She looked at the photo on her dash. The dock, the lake, the barefoot girl who used to believe in simpler choices. Then she looked in the mirror, saw the woman she'd become. All right, she said, Cranberry, one chance. I'll meet you there, Shane said. Don't talk to anyone. Don't stop unless you have to. The line went dead. Ivy started the truck again. The engine caught with a reluctant growl. She merged back onto the highway, tires biting through the slush. The road stretched on like a confession. Hours blurred. Exit signs floated by like riddles. Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Cranberry Township. She'd driven this route a dozen times over the years, but never with her pulse hammering like a drumbeat. When she finally pulled into the industrial park, dawn was a smudge behind the clouds. The snow had stopped, leaving everything wrapped in silence. Shane's pickup waited near a dark warehouse, exhaust curling faintly in the cold. He waved her in, eyes red, face drawn. Inside, he said, quick. She backed the rig toward a half-open bay door. The concrete floor inside was slick with melted snow. Tools hung on the wall, a workbench cluttered with parts. The place smelled of oil and dust and old promises. Whose shop is this? She asked. Friend's, retired mechanic. Owes me. Everyone owes you, she said. He flinched, then managed a half smile. Maybe that's the problem. She climbed down, boots crunching on the ice. What's the plan? We park it here for a day or two, let things cool, then we... A voice cut him off. You're not going anywhere. The sound came from the shadows by the workbench. A man stepped forward. Same brown parka, same calm smile, the one from the rest stop. Morning, folks, he said. You've been busy. Shane's hand went to his coat pocket. The man raised one eyebrow. I wouldn't. A metallic click followed, not loud but final. Ivy's heartbeat thudded against her ribs. The man nodded toward the trailer. Why don't we all have a look at what's inside, huh? Shane hesitated. Ivy saw the moment his plan crumbled. He'd been outplayed before he even started. You followed me, she said. Didn't have to, the man replied. We just watched the headlines. Federal alert hit the wire an hour ago. Female driver, white Freightliner Cascadia, stolen classified equipment. You made quite an impression. I didn't steal anything. He shrugged. Tell that to the Bureau. Who the hell are you? Shane demanded. Name's not important. Let's just say I work for people who like their property back. He turned to Ivy. You seem smarter than your friend. Help me out, and maybe you keep your license. Something in his tone snapped whatever restraint Ivy had left. You think this is about a license? She said. You don't know me. The man's smile widened. You're right. But I know how this ends if you don't cooperate. He stepped closer. Too close. And that was when Shane moved. Fast, desperate, stupid. The sound that followed wasn't loud, but it tore the air in half. A flash, a smell of cordite, a scream that didn't make it out of Ivy's throat. The man staggered back, clutching his shoulder. Shane's pistol, a small, ugly thing, smoked in his hand. "Run!" he shouted. For once, Ivy didn't argue. She bolted for the cab, heart pounding, snow kicking up behind her boots. Shane dove into the pickup. Engines roared to life. Behind them, someone shouted, and more gunfire split the morning. The rig lurched onto the street, tires spitting slush. Ivy downshifted hard, the trailer swaying. Ahead, the freeway ramp loomed like salvation, or maybe damnation. She didn't know which. All she knew was that the road still wanted her alive, and for now, that was enough. By the time the sun crawled above the horizon, the storm had thinned to a mist, leaving the interstate slick and colorless. The world outside Ivy's windshield looked like it had been washed in grayscale. The trailer rattled with every expansion joint, a heartbeat she could neither trust nor silence. She'd been driving for hours without stopping. No music, no CB, no voice except the engines. The adrenaline that had fueled her escape had turned to something colder, heavier. Her knuckles ached around the steering wheel. In the side mirror, she caught flashes of Shane's pickup half a mile behind, keeping distance but not hiding. It was his way of saying, "I'm still here," without asking for forgiveness. The radio news on AM crackled through static. She tuned it in just long enough to hear the words. Authorities are searching for a semi believed to be carrying classified prototype technology stolen from a federal subcontractor in Ohio. The driver, a woman in her late 30s, has been identified only as an independent contractor. Law enforcement warns she may be armed and dangerous. Ivy snapped the radio off. Armed and dangerous. The phrase hung in her head like an accusation. She hadn't fired a gun since she was 20, and that was at a paper target in the desert. Dangerous, maybe, but not the way they meant. At a rest pullout near Clarion, she finally eased off the road. Her hands trembled when she killed the engine. The silence hit her like a wall. The air inside the cab was stale with coffee and fear. She reached for the photo again, the dock, the lake, the barefoot girl. And for a moment, she didn't see herself at all, just water and light and someone who used to believe in going home. A knock at the door snapped her back. She reached instinctively for the tire iron she kept wedged by the seat. "It's me," came Shane's voice. She cracked the window. "You trying to get shot?" "Wouldn't be my first bad morning." He gave a weak grin. His face was drawn, clothes damp, a smear of blood across his sleeve. "You hit him," she said. "Just a shoulder graze," he answered. "He'll live, which is worse for me, probably. You realize we're officially fugitives now." He leaned against the truck, breath fogging in the cold. "We were fugitives the second that seal broke." "Maybe you were," she said. "Ivy, listen." "No, you listen." She flung the door open and climbed down, boots crunching in the ice. "You brought this to me. You dragged me into your mess. I had a clean run. I was done being stupid." He flinched, eyes searching hers. "You think I planned this? You think I wanted another record? Another headline with my name on it?" "What I think doesn't matter," she said. "The law doesn't care about stories. It cares about arrests." Shane rubbed his temples. "We can still fix this. I've got a contact in D.C., a reporter. If we tell her what really happened, maybe she can blow this open before they bury us." "A reporter?" Ivy laughed bitterly. "That's your plan? Swap a warrant for a news article? It's better than waiting for the feds to knock down your door at a truck stop." She didn't answer right away. Snowflakes clung to his hair, melting down his neck. He looked older than she remembered, not just by years, but by miles. "Who's the contact?" she asked at last. "Name's Dana Price, investigative journalist. She's exposed defense scandals before. She'll listen." "Where?" "Pittsburgh, downtown. She's on assignment for a tech magazine. If we can get there by tonight, she'll meet us." Ivy crossed her arms. "And what happens after? You think she'll keep us out of jail?" He gave a tired shrug. At least we'll get our side on record before someone decides to make us vanish." The wind howled across the empty lot. Somewhere down the highway, a siren moaned. Distant but closing. Ivy made a decision she didn't like. Fine, Pittsburgh. But after that, I'm done. "Fair," he said softly. "You've been done for years anyway." They drove in silence for the next few hours, the highway cutting through the frozen hills like a scar. The snow stopped, replaced by thin winter sun that made everything too bright. Ivy led, Shane followed. Every so often she'd check the mirror and see his truck, the one working tail light, the faint plume of exhaust, and feel the weight of unfinished history pressing against her chest. As they approached the city, traffic thickened. Bridges rose over frozen rivers, smokestacks marking the skyline. Pittsburgh looked carved from steel and fatigue, a city that understood survival. Shane called her on the burner phone he'd picked up at a gas station. "We meet her in an hour," he said. "Coffee shop near the Strip District. She's bringing someone with her for protection. Don't freak out." "Define protection," Ivy said. "Not a cop, just someone who doesn't scare easy." "Wonderful." They parked 2 blocks from the meeting point, a small cafe wedged between a vinyl store and a locksmith's. Ivy left the truck in a narrow lot, engine idling just in case. She caught her reflection in the window as she passed, dark circles under her eyes, jaw set hard enough to cut glass. Inside, the place smelled of burnt espresso and cinnamon. Shane was already there, sitting with a woman in her 40s. Sharp eyes, short hair, posture like she'd seen too much and stopped caring. Next to her sat a younger man with the kind of build that didn't come from a gym. "Ivy Hart," the woman said, standing. "Dana Price." "You've had an interesting week." "You could say that," Ivy replied, sliding into the seat. Dana wasted no time. "I've seen the reports. You're accused of transporting restricted tech stolen from a defense subcontractor named Helios Systems. They claim you hijacked your own shipment." "They claim is the right phrase," Ivy said. Dana studied her for a beat, then leaned forward. "What's really in that trailer?" "Something they didn't want traveling without a security escort," Ivy said. "Shane thinks it's quantum hardware, military grade. Whatever it is, people are willing to kill for it." The younger man's eyes flicked toward the window. They might be willing to follow for it too. Outside, 2 black SUVs rolled slowly past the cafe, tinted windows like blindfolds. Dana didn't move. "You've been made," she said quietly. Ivy's heart lurched. "How?" "They tap the emergency broadcast frequencies the moment you cross the state line. Every trucker east of here's been told to watch for your rig. They'll be here in minutes." Shane cursed under his breath. "We've got to move." Dana reached into her bag and pulled out a small flash drive. "Whatever's in that trailer, I want it documented. Get me close enough to photograph serial numbers and I can trace where it came from. You want out? This is the only way." The younger man, her bodyguard, maybe ex-military, glanced at Ivy. "You sure you can keep her rig rolling under heat?" Ivy's lips curved into something close to a smirk. "I've kept worse things moving." "Then let's go," Dana said. Outside, the wind had turned sharp again. Sirens echoed somewhere near the river. Ivy climbed into her cab, the journalist and her partner in the back of Shane's pickup. She fired up the engine and pulled into traffic, merging onto the Parkway East. Pittsburgh blurred behind them in streaks of gray and rust. Ahead lay the tunnels, the mountains, and whatever waited on the other side. Shane's voice came over the burner line. "We've got one shot at this. Once they catch up, it's over." "I know," Ivy said, eyes on the road. "You scared?" She thought about it, then only of standing still. The tunnels swallowed them whole, lights flashing across the windshield like Morse code. Somewhere in the darkness, she wondered whether this was what redemption looked like, or just another long haul toward a dead end. Either way, she kept her foot on the throttle. The road demanded motion, and Ivy Hart had never learned how to stop. By dusk, they were deep in the Allegheny Mountains. The world had folded itself into long ribbons of asphalt and pine. The trailer hummed behind Ivy like a living thing, full of secrets that wanted out. Snow had turned to freezing rain, streaking the windshield in thin silver veins. Dana's voice crackled over the walkie she'd borrowed from Shane. "We need to stop somewhere safe. I have to see what's inside that trailer." "Safe doesn't exist tonight," Ivy said. "You want to stop? We find cover, not another parking lot." "There's a service road about 10 miles up," Shane said. "Old mine access. Nobody uses it anymore." "Perfect," Ivy muttered. They turned off onto a narrow 2-lane road, hidden under low branches and black ice. The rig's headlights sliced through fog, revealing a half-collapsed warehouse with a rusted sign, "Hillside Mining Corners Closed." Since 1999, the place looked like a ghost wearing its own bones. Ivy parked the truck under the shelter of the old loading canopy. Shane and the others pulled up close behind. The cold hit them the second they stepped outside, the kind of cold that stung the teeth and made your breath sound like lies. Dana's assistant, the quiet ex-military guy named Reed, scanned the perimeter with a flashlight. "Clear," he said. "For now." Dana turned to Ivy. "Let's open it." Ivy hesitated. She'd driven with that seal broken once, and the universe hadn't forgiven her yet. But if she didn't, they'd never have proof. She climbed up and rolled the door open. Metal screeched like a warning. The interior glowed faintly blue, not from lights, but from the crates themselves. A low hum filled the air, a pulse like distant thunder. Dana's eyes widened. "Good God, it's real." "What is it?" Ivy asked. Reed stepped closer, flashlight beam bouncing off polished casing. "Quantum processors, next-gen field cores. Stuff I've only seen in DARPA prototypes." "Meaning?" Shane said. "Meaning," Reed answered. "These boxes are worth more than most small countries, and anyone who touches them without authorization commits about a dozen federal crimes." Dana pulled her camera from her bag. "We're already past that line. Let's get it documented." She moved carefully, photographing serial numbers, labels, the faint Helios Systems logos etched into metal. "These are test modules for something called Project Faraday," she murmured. "It was supposed to be shut down 5 years ago, but these manufacturing dates are from last month." "So the government lied," Shane said flatly. "The government always lies," Dana said. "The question is, who are they lying for this time?" Ivy felt the hum of the machines vibrate through her boots. "You said these were prototypes. What do they do?" Reed hesitated. "If the rumors are true, they're designed to crack quantum encryption. Every digital wall the world relies on could come down in seconds. Banking systems, defense networks, satellites, all of it." Silence fell like dust. "So this is why they're hunting us," Ivy said. Dana nodded slowly. "You're carrying the keys to the entire modern world." The words hit her harder than any siren. She'd hauled everything in her life: steel beams, frozen food, auto parts, but never something that could rewrite history. Shane rubbed his hands together, pacing. "So what do we do now? Turn it in? Sell it? Burn it?" "None of the above," Dana said. "We leak it. Full transparency. If the public knows what Helios is doing, they can't bury it." Reed's jaw tightened. "You think the public will understand this? They'll just see a stolen load and 2 criminals on the run." Ivy looked at Shane. "He's right. You think they'll believe you?" "Then they'll believe her," Shane said, nodding at Dana. "She's got the platform." Dana lowered her camera. "I can publish, but we need proof of intent. Documents, contracts, emails. This hardware won't be enough." "Where do we get that?" Ivy asked. "Helios headquarters," Dana said quietly. "D.C. suburb, Reston, Virginia. If they're still moving this tech, the paper trail's there." "D.C.," Shane repeated. "That's suicide." "Maybe," Ivy said, "but so is running forever." They all looked at her. The trucker, the convict, the reporter, and the soldier. a makeshift convoy stitched together by bad luck and bigger truths. Reed broke the silence. If we're going to D.C., we move now, before dawn. They'll expect you to run north or west, not toward the capital. Shane nodded reluctantly. We stash the load in the mine office, fake a breakdown, and roll light. No one suspects an empty trailer. Ivy gave him a long look. You sure you trust your own plan this time? He smiled without humor. No, but it's the only one we've got. For the next hour, they worked in the freezing dark. Reed and Shane moved the crates with quiet precision, stacking them behind old conveyor equipment. Dana marked each with chalk and took photos of the hiding place. When it was done, Ivy sealed the empty trailer and replaced the tag. She climbed back into the cab, flexing her stiff fingers. Dana rode shotgun now, laptop balanced on her knees, eyes glowing in the cold blue light of the screen. You ever been to D.C.? The journalist asked. Once, Ivy said. Didn't like the traffic. Then you'll really hate what's waiting there. Ivy shifted into gear. The truck rolled forward, tires crunching over frozen gravel. Behind them, the abandoned mine disappeared into the fog. Ahead, the long black road curved east, toward power, truth, and maybe destruction. Shane's pickup followed at a careful distance, headlights dimmed. For the first time in years, Ivy felt something that wasn't fear. It wasn't hope either. Not yet. It was purpose. And it burned hotter than any sunrise. By the time the skyline of Washington, D.C. began to shimmer through the dawn haze, Ivy's nerves were raw as live wire. The highway looped past Arlington, the monuments nothing more than pale teeth biting into the morning sky. Dana sat beside her, eyes fixed on the laptop, fingers flying over the keys. Every few minutes she'd mutter coordinates or names that meant nothing to Ivy, but clearly drew a map in her head. Reston's 20 minutes out, Dana said, squinting at the GPS. Helios Systems has 3 campuses. The primary one handles government R&D contracts. We hit that one. Hit sounds dramatic, Ivy said. You mean sneak in. Call it what you want, Dana replied. We need their internal records, the kind they won't share with Congress. Lovely, Ivy muttered. Federal prison's always been on my bucket list. Shane's voice crackled over the walkie. We'll park the pickup 2 blocks from their east gate. I've got fake delivery manifests from a job last year. Should get us past the outer lot if we look legit. Ivy snorted. Nothing says legit like 2 wanted felons and a journalist with a camera. You'd be surprised, Shane said. They exited onto a corporate parkway, 6 lanes wide, lined with sterile trees and mirrored glass towers. The kind of place where the air smelled like money and plausible deniability. Helios Systems stood at the end of the boulevard, a sprawling complex of steel and blue glass. A flag snapped in the cold wind, the company logo, a stylized sunburst, gleaming like irony. Hard to believe a building that's shiny hides that much rot, Dana murmured. Reed scanned the area. Security booth on the left, cameras on every corner. You'll need a distraction. Shane looked at Ivy. Remember that short in your trailer's brake line? The one you fixed with duct tape in Kansas? I remember you breaking it, she said. He grinned faintly. Time to put that skill to use again. Within minutes, Ivy had the truck idling at the rear service road, hood raised, smoke billowing from a loosened hose. A maintenance worker hustled over, radio squawking. While he crouched to inspect the problem, Dana and Reed slipped through the side gate, badges clipped to their coats. Counterfeit, but convincing. Inside the truck, Ivy kept the engine rumbling, pretending frustration, while Shane leaned against the trailer like he belonged there. Minutes passed. The worker muttered something about coolant pressure, then waved her toward the parking area. She nodded, rolling forward slowly, giving Dana the window she needed. 10 minutes later, the walkie buzzed softly. Dana's voice tense but steady. We're in. Level 2 server room. Reed's pulling backups. I found encrypted memos. References to something called Project Faraday Prime. Not just quantum cores. Deployment protocols. Translation? Ivy asked. Someone's planning to use the tech soon. Large scale. Shane's knuckles whitened. How soon? Before Dana could answer, Reed's voice cut in, low and sharp. We're burned. Security sweep inbound, 2 minutes, maybe less. Get out, Ivy said immediately. Working on it, Dana hissed. The walkie filled with static, then a burst of shouting. Guards' footsteps, the slam of a metal door. Ivy's pulse spiked. She threw the truck into reverse, back toward the service gate, and punched the horn twice. Shane was already moving, scanning the fences for motion. There! A side door burst open. Dana and Reed sprinted into the open, Reed clutching a drive, Dana her camera. Behind them, 2 guards followed, shouting into radios. Ivy swung the rig to block their path. The guards hesitated, uncertain whether to shoot or not. Reed dove into the pickup, dragging Dana with him. Shane jumped in after them. Go, go, go! Ivy didn't need to be told twice. The engine howled as she tore out of the lot, the trailer fishtailing before catching grip on the wet asphalt. Bullets sparked against the fender. Too close, too real. She merged onto the highway, pedal down, speed climbing past 60, then 70. Shane's pickup followed tight behind, like an anchor made of adrenaline. After a mile, Dana's voice came through again, breathless but alive. We got it. Internal files, memos, everything. They were planning to activate the cores within 48 hours. For what? Ivy demanded. Global test, satellite sync. If it works, Helios will own every encrypted network on Earth. Banking, defense, comms. Total control of information. The words hit harder than the gunfire. So they're not just selling it, Shane said. They're trying to rule the damn world with it. Pretty much, Dana said grimly. Traffic thickened ahead. Sirens wailed somewhere behind. Ivy veered onto a side road, heading south through residential sprawl. Where now? She asked. Someplace we can upload, Dana said. The files are huge, but if we get them online before Helios locks their servers, the truth goes public. Upload where? My editor runs a secure node through an encrypted satellite channel. We just need connection and time. Then we need distance, Ivy said. DC is crawling with law enforcement. We'll never outrun them here. Shane checked the map. South. Through Fredericksburg down to Richmond, there's rural coverage and a safe house I used before. Old biker bar converted into storage. Ivy arched an eyebrow. A biker bar. He smirked. You'd fit right in. They pushed south for hours, dodging checkpoints and back roads. At sunset, they reached a stretch of abandoned highway near Spotsylvania. Trees pressing close, the asphalt cracked and forgotten. The bar appeared ahead, half collapsed, neon sign still faintly flickering. The Iron Spur. Inside, the place smelled of dust and whiskey ghosts. Ivy parked the rig behind the building, hidden from the road. Dana set up her laptop on the old counter, connecting cables and antenna gear from her pack. Reed stood watch at the window, rifle slung loosely but ready. Shane found a crate of old beer bottles and lined them up, because nerves always needed something to do. Once I hit send, Dana said, there's no going back. This will go global. Helios, the quantum cores, everything. Do it, Ivy said. Dana hesitated. If they trace the signal, we're done. They already want us dead, Ivy replied. Might as well give them a reason. Dana pressed the key. The screen filled with lines of code, transfer bars crawling upward. Uploading, she murmured. 50%. Outside, wind howled through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, sirens echoed. Faint, but coming closer. Reed checked his watch. We've got maybe 15 minutes. 60%, Dana said. Come on, come on. The sound of engines cut through the wind. Headlights flared at the end of the road. SUVs again, black and predatory. Company, Reed shouted. Ivy's body moved before her brain did. Shane, get the pickup ready. Dana, grab your drive. 90%, Dana yelled. Just 30 seconds more. Bullets shattered the bar's front windows. Reed returned fire, precise and controlled. Ivy ducked behind the counter as shards flew past her face. 95! Dana screamed. The progress bar froze for a heartbeat, then filled. Upload complete. Dana yanked the power cord, shoved the laptop into her bag. We're live. It's out there. Then let's make sure we're still around to see it, Ivy said. They ran for the back door. Shane gunned the pickup's engine while Ivy climbed into the rig. Headlights lit the clearing like noon. Where to now? She shouted over the radio. Anywhere but here, Shane replied. As they tore down the back road, the bar behind them erupted in orange light. The SUVs had fired, one of their rounds hitting the gas line. The iron spur went up like a bonfire, flames clawing at the night sky. In the glow, Ivy caught a glimpse of Dana's face in the rearview mirror, a mix of terror and triumph. The truth was out, but truth, like fire, didn't care who it burned first. The flames from the iron spur still lit the sky in the mirrors when Ivy finally eased off the gas. The road wound south through pine forest, dark and endless, the smoke following them like a second shadow. The world felt tilted, stretched too thin between what they'd done and what was coming. Dana sat in the passenger seat again, clutching the laptop to her chest like a newborn. Reed rode in the pickup behind them with Shane, keeping watch through the broken rear window. No one spoke for miles. When Ivy finally broke the silence, her voice was low, almost detached. Tell me it worked. Dana glanced at the laptop screen. It did. I verified the upload twice. Every outlet in the world has the files now. Copies, backups, mirrored servers. Even if Helios pulls their networks, the story's already spreading. What about the proof? The proof is the story, Dana said. The memos, the deployment plans, the satellite schedules, it's all there. By morning, Helios will be a curse word in every newsroom in the country. Ivy exhaled slowly. Then we just made a lot of enemies. Or history, Dana said. The words sounded brave. They didn't feel that way. They drove through the night. The forest thinned, giving way to wide plains and abandoned motels. Every gas station they passed looked closed, every road sign older than it should be. The heater in the cab clicked, tired from overuse. At dawn, they stopped at a diner off Route 17, the kind of place where time forgot to keep moving. Ivy parked the rig behind the building, out of sight, while the others slipped inside. The waitress looked them over once and decided not to ask questions. Coffee came in chipped mugs, pancakes in silence. A radio near the counter buzzed with static before the morning news broke through. Helios Systems is under federal investigation this morning following the leak of thousands of classified documents. The company's CEO, Thomas Granger, denies wrongdoing, calling the files forgeries. Dana smiled grimly. He's lying through his teeth. The announcer continued. Sources suggest the leak originated from a stolen transport truck late last week. Authorities are seeking 2 suspects believed to be involved in the incident. Shane set down his mug hard enough to crack it. They're spinning it. They have to, Dana said. They can't admit the truth overnight. It'll take time for the data to be verified, for the world to believe it. Reed looked out the window. We might not have that time. Outside, 2 unmarked cars rolled slowly past the diner, the kind with government plates and drivers who didn't look at the road. Move, Ivy said. They left cash on the counter and slipped out the back door. The cold hit like a slap. By the time the cars looped back around, the rig and pickup were already heading south again, engines roaring against the quiet morning. Please, I'm sorry. That afternoon, they reached an old truck stop near the North Carolina border, the kind of forgotten junction where nobody asked what you were hauling as long as you paid in cash. Shane pulled alongside Ivy's cab. We can't keep running in daylight. They've got drones up now. Then we run at night, she said. He nodded toward the sky, pale and wide. You ever think about stopping? Every day, Ivy said. Still driving, though. They parked behind a line of derelict rigs, engines off. The air smelled like wet rust and oil. Dana stretched, back cracking audibly. Reed scanned the horizon again. Habit, not hope. "Helios will fall," Dana said quietly, "but the people behind it, the real ones, they won't go down easy. Granger's just a face. The machine runs deeper than that." Ivy lit a cigarette she didn't want, watching the smoke drift. "So we just kicked a hornet's nest." Dana looked at her. "You didn't kick it. You drove through it at 70 miles an hour. "Semantics," Ivy said, but there was a trace of a smile. Shane joined them, exhaustion carved deep into his face. "What happens now?" "We wait," Dana said. "Let the story spread. Let the world catch up." "Waiting's never been my strong suit," Shane muttered. "It's the only play left," Reed said. That night, Ivy couldn't sleep. She sat on the truck step, watching the moon rise over the trees. The others slept in the pickup, doors locked, weapons close. The night was too still. That kind of quiet that feels like a held breath. She thought of the years she'd spent on the road, believing the map was the only truth she needed. Every mile had been a choice, every load a promise she could keep or break. But now, for the first time, she wasn't running freight. She was hauling history. The radio on her dash crackled softly. She almost ignored it, until she recognized the voice. "To the woman driving the white Cascadia Freightliner, this is Thomas Granger. I know you're listening." Ivy froze. The voice was smooth, confident, practiced. The voice of a man used to owning the room. "You think you've exposed me. You haven't. The world runs on stories, Ms. Hart, and I own the ones that matter. You can hide for a day, a week, maybe a month, but I don't lose." Static swallowed the rest. Ivy stared at the radio. Her reflection stared back, eyes hard as asphalt. Then she turned the dial, killing the sound. From the shadows, Shane's voice came soft but steady. "He's bluffing." "Maybe," she said. "But bluffers still win if you fold." Dana climbed out of the pickup, hair wild from sleep. What happened? "Granger found the frequency," Ivy said. "He's talking directly to us now." Dana's face went pale. "Then he knows we're still alive." "Good," Ivy said, standing. "Let him know who's driving." She climbed into the cab, fired the engine, and looked at the horizon. A long, dark ribbon waiting for her. "Where are we going?" Shane called. Ivy's voice was calm. "To finish this." The engine rumbled like thunder rolling over the plain. The truck moved forward, slow at first, then faster. The night swallowed the taillights one by one until the world was road again. Endless, dangerous, and hers to command. Somewhere ahead lay Granger, Helios, and whatever last fight waited for them. And Ivy Hart, for the first time in her life, wasn't running away. She was driving straight into the storm. The highway south of Raleigh was half empty, the sky bruised and trembling with rain. Thunder rolled across the horizon like a promise someone meant to keep. Ivy's rig cut through the dark, headlights carving long spears of light over wet asphalt. Dana sat beside her, typing on her laptop, lips pressed tight in concentration. Reed dozed in the passenger seat of the pickup behind them, while Shane handled the wheel, eyes sharp despite the exhaustion that dragged at all of them. "Every major network's covering it now," Dana said. "Helios stock collapsed overnight. Congressional hearings are already being scheduled." "That's the good news," Ivy said. "What's the bad?" "Federal warrants. Your face, Shane's, even mine. We're officially domestic fugitives. They're calling us cyber terrorists." Ivy let out a dry laugh. "Guess we made it big." "It won't last," Dana said, shaking her head. "Once the data's authenticated, once the journalists start comparing timestamps, they'll see we told the truth. But Granger's buying time, and that means we're in his way." As if to prove her point, a flash of headlights appeared behind them. Too steady, too deliberate. Not a random driver. Shane's voice came through the walkie. 2 SUVs, black, no plates. They picked up speed after the last exit. Government or Granger? Ivy asked. At this point, Shane said, does it matter? The rain thickened, hammering the windshield. Wipers thumped like a metronome marking their heartbeat. The road curved through swamp country now. Low bridges, dark water on both sides, no lights for miles. Can't outrun them on a straight, Ivy said. We need to vanish. There's a service tunnel ahead, Shane answered. Used to be a way station before they shut it down, 2 miles. Lead them to it, Ivy said. Dana looked at her. You're not seriously thinking... Trust me, Ivy said. They want to chase. Let's give them a show. The way station appeared like a relic from another era. Empty booths, faded signs, vines creeping up the concrete walls. Ivy swung her rig off the main road, tires spraying mud, and killed the headlights. The pickup followed, sliding into the shadows. The black SUVs slowed, scanning the road. Their beams sliced through the rain but couldn't penetrate the dark corners of the abandoned station. Inside her cab, Ivy held her breath. The only sound was rain tapping on the roof and the soft ticking of the cooling engine. Then one SUV crept onto the lot. Another followed. Shane whispered through the walkie. 2 targets. Driver and passenger armed. Third might still be on the road. Copy, Ivy said. Dana reached for her camera. If we can record them, maybe. Not tonight. Ivy cut her off. Tonight we stay alive. The first SUV rolled closer to the truck. Headlights off now, just the hum of its engine. The passenger door opened. A figure stepped out. Tall, raincoat flapping in the wind. Even through the blur of water, Ivy recognized the posture, confident, deliberate. Granger, she whispered. The man raised a megaphone. His voice echoed through the rain. Ivy Hart, Shane Walker, Dana Price. You've done enough damage. Step out now and maybe you'll see daylight again. Dana's hands clenched. He's here? Himself? Looks like it, Ivy said. Rich men only come out in person when they're desperate. Shane's voice crackled over the walkie. I've got a clean line of sight. We could end this right now. No, Ivy said sharply. We're not becoming him. The rain roared louder, drowning her words. Granger stepped closer, his coat whipping in the wind. You think you've exposed me? You think the world cares? In 2 weeks, they'll be watching football and talking about gas prices. The machine doesn't fall because you tug one wire. It adapts. Ivy opened her door, rain hitting her like shards of glass. She stood in the downpour, boots sinking into mud. Funny thing about machines, she said, her voice steady. When you overload them, they burn. Granger smiled faintly. You're brave, Miss Hart. Or stupid. Both, she said. Behind him, the second SUV's doors opened. Armed men stepped out. Black suits, rifles glinting under lightning. Shane gunned the pickup's engine, lights flaring. Now, he barked. Ivy nodded once. The pickup roared forward, fishtailing through the mud. The first SUV swung to block it, but Ivy slammed her rig into gear and floored it. The 18-wheeler leapt forward with a metallic scream, headlights cutting through the chaos. The impact was thunder. The truck's grill smashed the SUV sideways, sending it into the ditch. Gunfire erupted, echoing under the storm. Go! Ivy shouted. Shane's pickup skidded past her, Reed firing short bursts from the passenger window, covering their retreat. Granger dove behind his car, shouting orders that the wind tore apart. Ivy's trailer scraped the concrete wall, sparks raining down like fireworks. The rig thundered through the service tunnel, water cascading off the roof. When they burst out the far side, Shane was already ahead, tires spinning on the slick road. "Status!" she yelled into the radio. "Reed's hit," Shane said, voice breaking. "Shoulder wound. He's stable, but we need cover." "Copy," Ivy said. "There's an old maintenance yard 5 miles up. We stop there." And the yard was little more than a gravel pit surrounded by rusting machinery. Ivy parked the rig behind a line of abandoned tankers, headlights off. The rain eased to a drizzle. Reed sat on the tailgate of the pickup, shirt torn, blood seeping through a makeshift bandage. Dana cleaned the wound with trembling hands while Shane paced the perimeter, pistol drawn. "He'll be fine," Dana said quietly, though she didn't sound sure. Ivy lit a cigarette, hands shaking only slightly. The glow illuminated her face, tired, hard, resolute. "He was right about one thing," she said. "The world moves on fast. If we disappear, they'll spin it, twist it, bury it." Dana looked up. "Then what do we do?" Ivy stared into the rain-dark horizon. "We finish what we started." Shane stopped pacing. Meaning we take the rest of Helios down. The servers, the backups, the money behind it. All of it." Dana's eyes widened. "You're talking about a war." Ivy flicked ash into the mud. "No, just a reckoning." The thunder rolled again, long and low, as if the world itself agreed. Somewhere far behind them, sirens wailed and then faded, swallowed by the storm. They didn't sleep that night. The rain kept falling, gentle now, almost kind. Dana sat with Reed, whispering stories to keep him awake. Shane cleaned the gun he hadn't fired. Ivy watched the road, waiting for headlights that never came. When dawn finally broke, thin and pale, the world looked new again, washed, but not clean. Ivy climbed into her cab, turned the key, and felt the engine rumble like an old friend. "We head east," she said. "Norfolk first. There's a Helios data relay near the docks. We burn it." Shane climbed into the pickup. "One last run?" "One last run," Ivy said. Dana met her eyes. "You know this could kill us." "Yeah," Ivy said, smiling faintly. "But dying's easy. Living with running away, that's harder." The rig pulled out, tires spitting gravel. Behind them, the rain stopped, and the air smelled like metal and redemption. They drove toward the rising sun, 4 ghosts on a road the map didn't name anymore. Ahead, the final reckoning. By the time they reached the Virginia coast, the air had turned electric, heavy with the scent of salt and coming rain. Norfolk's shipyard sprawled before them, cranes like skeletal giants, stacks of shipping containers painted in rust and lies. Somewhere among those warehouses pulsed the last beating heart of Helios systems. Ivy parked the rig behind a row of empty freight trailers, killing the lights. The others joined her by the side of the truck. Reed's arm was bandaged tight, his face pale but defiant. Shane's eyes were wild with exhaustion and something else. Purpose, maybe, or guilt he'd finally made peace with. Dana unfolded a satellite image on her tablet. "There," she said, pointing to a cluster of warehouses near the dock. "Building 21. Helios operates a data relay node underground, hidden under a logistics shell company. If we take it out, they lose their real-time network links. No backups, no recovery." Ivy studied the map. "Security?" "Private contractors," Dana said. "Ex-military, same ones we saw near the tunnel. But the storm works in our favor. Surveillance will be limited." Shane cracked his knuckles. "Then we move fast, hit hard, and get the hell out." Reed smiled grimly. "Spoken like a man who's never seen an extraction go right." "Let's make history prove us wrong," Ivy said. They waited until full dark. The storm rolled back in, clouds splitting with lightning, rain slashing sideways across the yard. The noise of it covered their movements, the hiss of tires, the soft thud of boots on wet pavement. Ivy led the way, crouched low, soaked through but steady. They moved between shipping containers, the smell of oil and sea salt thick enough to taste. Dana carried the laptop in a waterproof case. Reed had his rifle, and Shane carried 2 satchels of thermite charges scavenged from a stolen maintenance van. The entrance to Building 21 was a steel door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." The lock was digital. Dana knelt beside it, pulled out a small device, and started tapping. "How long?" Ivy asked. 30 seconds if they used old firmware, Dana muttered. 3 minutes if they didn't. A flash of lightning illuminated the yard, and in that moment, Ivy saw movement on the far end of the fence. Shadows. More than 2. Company, she whispered. Almost there, Dana said, fingers flying. Shane pulled his pistol, eyes narrow. They're spreading out. They know we're here. Then we don't wait, Ivy said. Reed, with me. Shane, cover Dana. Reed took position beside her, rifle up. The first merc stepped into view, rain glinting off his visor. He raised his weapon. Reed fired once, controlled, clean. The man dropped. Another appeared, firing wild. Bullets sparked off the containers. Ivy ducked, heart hammering. Dana's voice cut through the chaos. Got it! The lock clicked. The steel door swung open. Go! Ivy shouted. They poured inside. Concrete corridors, fluorescent lights flickering, the hum of machines deep below. The noise of the storm faded behind them, replaced by something colder. The pulse of servers, alive and aware. Basement level, Dana said, consulting the map. We plant the charges near the cooling core. They descended metal stairs slick with condensation. Each step echoed like a countdown. At the bottom, they found it. A chamber of humming towers, each one glowing with that same blue light Ivy remembered from the trailer. The sound wasn't mechanical anymore. It felt organic, like breathing. Shane set down his bag, unzipping the charges. 5 minutes fuse, he said. No mistakes. Reed helped him anchor them to the main frames while Dana backed up files to her drive, muttering coordinates and hashes. Ivy stood watch by the stairwell, gun raised, adrenaline burning cold through her veins. When the first shout came from above, "They're here!" Ivy didn't hesitate. 3 minutes, she yelled. On it, Shane replied. Gunfire raked the stairwell. Sparks flew. Ivy returned fire, the recoil numbing her arms. Reed dropped another merc, but there were more. Too many. 2 minutes, Shane called. Dana yanked the final drive from the console, shoving it into her jacket. We have it all! Then move, Ivy ordered. They sprinted for the stairs as bullets tore through the metal. Reed took one in the leg but kept going. Shane grabbed his arm, hauling him upward. The building shuddered, first from thunder, then from something deeper. The thermite ignited, white fire blooming through the lower levels. Heat slammed into them like a physical blow. Run, Ivy shouted. They burst through the exit into the rain just as the building erupted. A roar of light and sound swallowed the night. Fire curling skyward, glass raining down like stars. The shockwave knocked them to the ground. Ivy's ears rang. She pushed herself up, vision swimming, and saw the warehouse collapsing inward, flames devouring the heart of Helios Systems. Dana sat in the mud, laptop still clutched to her chest. Her hair was singed, her expression dazed but fierce. It's done, she whispered. It's gone. Reed coughed, clutching his leg. Remind me never to work with truckers again. Shane laughed, a rough, broken sound. We did it. We actually did it. Ivy stared at the inferno. We burned a monster, she said. Doesn't mean it's dead. Then we keep driving, Shane said quietly, until it is. Far off, sirens began to wail, the sound of approaching consequence. Let's move, Ivy said. They piled into the vehicles. The rig roared back to life, tires cutting through puddles and debris. Behind them, the night glowed orange, reflected in the rain-soaked asphalt like a promise written in fire. Hours later, they stopped on a bluff overlooking the bay. The first gray light of dawn crept over the water. The world was quiet again, the storm finally spent. Dana leaned against the truck, laptop open, watching the news feed scroll. It's everywhere, she said softly. International coverage, government response, mass resignations. They can't hide anymore. Shane let out a long breath. Then it's over. No, Ivy said, watching the horizon. It's never over, but it's enough for now. The sea wind tugged at her hair. The engine ticked softly as it cooled. For the first time in years, Ivy Hart didn't feel like she was running. She felt like she'd arrived, at the edge of something honest, dangerous, and absolutely hers. She climbed into the cab, turned the key, and smiled faintly. "Come on," she said. "Let's go see if the world still needs saving." The truck rolled forward into the morning, tires hissing on wet pavement. The sun rose behind them, pale gold and forgiving. By mid-morning, the storm had broken completely. Sunlight spilled over the wet highway, turning puddles into shards of silver. The air smelled of salt, diesel, and something like peace. Ivy drove with the window half down, letting the wind clear the smoke from her lungs. Dana sat beside her, still scrolling through headlines on her laptop, every few seconds murmuring disbelief. Shane and Reed followed behind in the pickup, a pair of worn-out silhouettes against the endless sky. The radio stations were full of their story now, or versions of it. Some called them criminals, some called them whistleblowers, others called them ghosts. "The Helios scandal," one anchor said. "A small group of rogue individuals has exposed a global surveillance conspiracy linked to defense contracts and government agencies. The company's CEO, Thomas Granger, remains at large." Granger. The name still made Ivy's knuckles tighten. Dana turned down the volume. "He'll resurface. Men like that always do." "I know," Ivy said, "but now everyone's watching for him. He can't hide in the shadows anymore." Dana closed the laptop and exhaled. "You realize what you did, right? You didn't just expose corruption. You gave people a story to believe in again." Ivy smiled faintly. "I didn't write it. I just drove it where it needed to go." They left the interstate and followed a side road that cut along the coast, narrow, two-lane, lined with dunes and quiet towns still waking up. A faded sign read, "Welcome to Cape Haven." Ivy hadn't meant to come here. The name just caught her eye, and something in it sounded like rest. She parked the rig by the shore. Waves broke gently against the rocks, gulls tracing lazy circles above. The others joined her by the water. For a long moment, no one spoke. Reed limped slightly, but managed a grin. "So what now, boss?" "Don't call me that," Ivy said. "We all drove this one." "Still," he said, "feels like we could use a next move." Shane kicked at the sand. "I don't know about you, but I've had enough running for one lifetime." Dana nodded. "The story's out. The government will spend months pretending to fix what's broken. Meanwhile, people will whisper about the truckers who burned $1 billion company to the ground." "Folklore," Reed said. "Every rebellion needs a ghost story." Ivy looked at the horizon. The sun hung low and kind, glinting off the water like polished steel. "Let them have their story," she said. "The road doesn't care who remembers the driver." Dana smiled softly. "You could disappear, you know. The charges won't stick once the investigations finish. You could go anywhere." "Anywhere," Ivy repeated. The word felt strange on her tongue. "That's the trouble. I've already been everywhere." She walked down to where the waves met the sand, boots sinking into the cool grit. For the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about the next load, the next mile, the next escape. The ocean stretched out before her. Endless, restless, familiar. Behind her, Shane called, "What'll you do now?" Ivy turned, the wind tugging at her hair. "Drive. Just maybe somewhere quiet this time." "Alone?" he asked. She thought about it. Not forever. Just long enough to remember who I was before the road started keeping score. Dana stepped closer, holding out a small envelope. "For you. Inside's a contact. Someone at a news syndicate who owes me a favor. If you ever want to tell your side in your own words, call her." Ivy took it, tucked it into her jacket. "Thanks, but some stories are better left in motion." Reed laughed softly. "You're a philosopher with a CDL." "Just a driver," she said. "Always was." They stood there for a while, watching the tide crawl in. The wind carried the distant hum of traffic, faint, comforting, endless. Finally, Ivy climbed back into her truck. The engine turned over with a deep, familiar growl. She looked out the windshield where the narrow coastal road bent south and vanished into sunlight. Dana raised a hand in farewell. Shane gave a half salute. Reed just nodded. Ivy smiled, shifted into gear, and rolled forward. The tires hissed over the wet pavement. The radio caught a fragment of an old country song, something about freedom, about the open road, about not knowing where you'll end up but going anyway. She let it play. The horizon opened wide, the sky bright and forgiving. For the first time in a long time, Ivy didn't feel like she was escaping. She felt like she was home. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support inspires new stories and keeps the wheels turning.